Hey everybody, Jazzy here. I've been enjoying the WX-78 rework, and I wanted to share a recap of a boss run that I recently did over on Twitch. The run took 117 days to clear all the bosses, and I've already posted the full run on YouTube, but I also wanted to give a little recap just to cover the strategies that I used for each boss fight and how I had to adjust them for WX. One of WX's big advantages is their ability to unlock speed, especially at an early part of the game. So a lot of the early game for me was dedicated to getting those circuits that will unlock their full potential. As with many of my boss runs, this one started with a Ruins Rush. And this is especially important for WX because it gives them an opportunity to get lots of gears. While gears don't boost your max stats anymore, they're still really useful as just a general superfood that never spoils and restores every single stat. So because of that, it's going to be a really good healing option for most of these bosses. The first boss comes on day 6, that will be Ancient Guardian, and we already have the speed circuit and the optoelectronic circuit, so we can use those during the fight. With the reworked Ancient Guardian, speed is not as necessary as it was before, but even still, it's useful for getting behind pillars before Ancient Guardian charges. For me, the optoelectronic circuit is much more helpful, especially during the second phase, because you can more easily avoid Ancient Guardian's leaps and all the Guardian tentacles which will start to spawn. In general, if I see a stray tentacle on the ground, I try to bait it into attacking just so that it despawns faster. The loot from this chest happened to be exceptional. We got a Lazy Explorer, we got a Thulecite Club, we got a Lazy Deserter, and a ton of yellow and green gems. The next boss comes on day 14 back on the surface, and that'll be the Eye of Terror. I try to get to this fight as early as possible because the eye mask will basically replace your football helm for most incidental fighting, and it's a lot cheaper and you won't spend as much pigskin on armor. The speed is very nice for dodging the charges, and it's easier to lure the eye away from the eyeballs. In the first phase, you can just kill the eyeballs as they spawn because they don't spawn all that often, but by the time you get to the second phase, try to lure Eye of Terror away from the eyeballs and continue to attack. You can kill the eyeballs at daytime, but nighttime is really the time to get in your damage with the boss. Yeah, the eye mask is a really great early game item. It replaces football helms, and it's super easy to refuel with raw monster meat. I'm also gonna save the milky whites for winter when I can use them to make ice cream. As soon as I got a hold of the mandrakes from the forest, I was able to hop into the BeeQueen fight on day 17. Now the first thing I'm gonna do is blow the pan flute to put BeeQueen to sleep. That's gonna let Jimmy scan her for the bean booster circuit. Now you don't need to kill BeeQueen to unlock it, but you do need royal jelly to craft the circuit. In phase 1, I'm going to do the thing where I kill all but one bee, and then I'm just going to tank BeeQueen with marble armor plus a beekeeper hat. With WX's speed, you can also do a bit of kiting during this phase. You just got to lure BeeQueen a little bit away from the grumblebee, and then, you know, don't try and hit more than 2 times. In phase 2, I'm going to start spamming the pan flutes because I absolutely hate this phase and I just want to move through it as quickly as possible. WX's speed is really nice right here because it can get us over to BeeQueen while she's waking up the bees. So on average, I was able to get in like 4 hits before BeeQueen attacked me again. Phase 3 and 4, I'm going to do the regular, you know, dragging the grumblebees far away, then running back and tanking with marble armor plus the beekeeper hat. The reason I'm using both marble armor and beekeeper hat for this is because the beekeeper hat has a ton of durability, and it's basically going to soak up a bunch of damage that would otherwise be directed towards the more expensive marble armor. I had a couple of Thulecite crowns just in case I ran out of beekeeper hats, but that turned out to be not necessary. For healing, I'm using gears, but I'm not going to need too many with the damage reduction of the marble armor. It's always nice to get to this fight first thing in autumn. Getting those bundling wraps and being able to expand your inventory, it changes the way you play the rest of the game. Day 21, I'm starting the fight with Dragonfly. Now, in general, I would recommend trying to get to this fight before winter starts because it unlocks the thermal circuit, which basically gives WX free heat for the winter. Fortunately, we had a Firehound set piece in the world, so I was able to scan a Firehound and get the thermal circuit that way. If I didn't have the circuit already, I probably would have just gone to Dragonfly, put her to sleep immediately, let Jimmy scan her, craft the circuit immediately, and put it right in. Jimmy's scanning range is actually a pretty good approximation of Dragonfly's swipe range, so it's useful for kiting. But the speed boost from this combination is absolutely insane. With the walking cane, the road, WX speed, and Imagoluminescence. You can actually dodge Dragonfly's first swipe if she approaches from the right angle. The fight is also so long that I can actually scan Dragonfly multiple times during the fight, so you definitely want to keep Jimmy out just in case you can get a little bit of extra bio data. Day 23 is Klaus, and check this out. If you have the thermal circuit in, then the Ice Deer cast doesn't hurt you at all. You still have to watch out because you can still be frozen, which will now drain electric charge, so yeah, don't get frozen. Most of this fight was pretty straightforward. I didn't have Star Color staff, so I just switched between a lantern and a handbat. But the extra speed is very useful for dodging that lunge in phase 2. The loot was pretty abysmal. I think I cashed in on that Ancient Guardian chest, so I'm not even gonna bother to mention what we got. I think it was like a shroom skin and then nothing else. Day 28, I'm taming a Beeflo, and I'm going to move these suspicious marble pieces into place. Now, I want to do this before spring starts because the Beeflo will be automatically in heat during spring, but I'm also hoping to mine out the suspicious marble pieces on night 31. But before that, we got Deerclops on day 30. I have the BeeQueen crown, so I can wear that for sanity. And again, with the extra speed, this fight's pretty simple. You just run around Clops to avoid attacks. I can hit Deerclops 6 times and then basically run under its feet. Unfortunately, I completely forgot to scan Deerclops for the refrigerant circuit, so I'm going to need to scan an Ice Hound from one of the walruses to get that. On day 31, I'm mining the suspicious marble at full moon, and that way I can fight the clockworks that pop out and grab 6 extra gears and a purple gem. Then I'll just take the sketches and set up a potter's wheel near the moonstone. That way we can prep for shadow pieces and the moonstone event all at the same time. Towards the end of winter, I made a raincoat. I got the feeling that an umbrella wasn't gonna cut it for some of the upcoming boss fights, so I just wanted to make sure that I was totally safe with my rain protection, and I do not regret that. Case in point, day 41, we fight the shadow pieces, and I actually didn't put on rain protection at the beginning of the fight. Because of that, I hit 20 wetness really fast and I started losing charge, which meant my speed disappeared. It was the first very unfriendly reminder that the raincoat is really, really important to WX. They must not get wet under any circumstances, because they're gonna really quickly lose electric charge and start taking damage. I was also going crazy during the fight and some shadow pieces were starting to spawn, so I ended up slamming some gears just to keep my sanity up. And then I spent a few days fighting some Moose Goose. I think I went through like 3 Moose Goose fights. I just wanted to make sure I had enough down feathers to make all the weather panes. I needed 1 to 2 weather panes for Fuelweaver and like 4 or 5 for Crab King. And in this fight, the raincoat or the umbrella is basically a requirement, as mosslings will most certainly make it rain and there's going to be a ton of lightning happening. You don't want to get stun locked at the wrong time. Day 56 is time for Fuelweaver. Now for weapon, I'm going to use a dark sword for phase 1, and then once phase 2 starts, I'm going to switch to a Thulecite club. On average, the Thulecite club will do more damage per second, and it's got twice the amount of uses. I didn't need to, but I am using the optoelectronic circuit for this fight. It was mainly just to get into the atrium and back out. But it's fine. I can still tell the difference between like being insane and having Moggle vision. I had some leftover marble armor from BeeQueen, so I'm going to use that to tank Fuelweaver a little bit. And then when that breaks, I'm going to switch to a Thulecite suit. I'm trying to use my Thulecite crown as much as possible to avoid breaking my BeeQueen hat. I don't mind getting the hat down a little bit, but if I can hold on to it, then it's a nice way of restoring sanity. If you got extra circuit space, I would consider using a sanity module for this fight. The processing circuit adds 40, and the super processing circuit adds 100. And it just helps delay the amount of time until WX starts going insane during this fight. In retrospect, I didn't really need light, so next time I'd probably go with a super hardy circuit, a super processing circuit, and a speed circuit. Day 61, I'm going to throw on a refrigerant circuit and return to the surface in summer. This circuit is really awesome. It slows spoilage of food, it keeps WX from overheating, and it even keeps a thermal stone cold, which I can hold on to for Antlion. For this fight, I'm using some leftover gear from Fuelweaver, so a few dark swords and a Thulecite suit. And then when the dark swords are done, I'm just going to switch to a handbat. This fight is pretty straightforward. Again, I would recommend a speed circuit so that you can more easily avoid the sand spikes. I did add a 1-pin health circuit. It's nice to have that pin available after you take care of the seasonal protection and add a little bit of speed. Max HP is one of those things that you think you don't need until you take that hit that would have killed you. Late summer and early autumn, I'm spending doing quests for Pearl. On day 72, I scanned a nurse spider for the Hardy Circuit 2.0. This is needed for the Drone Master circuit, but I actually like the Hardy Circuit better. It's got fewer pins, it's cheaper to craft, and honestly, I'd prefer to heal on demand anyways. For autumn, I'm finally going to attempt the max speed with 3 of the speed circuits. It works on kind of a diminishing return, and honestly, I can't really feel the difference between 3 circuits and 2 circuits. So I think for the most part, I'll be totally fine with just 1 speed circuit. Next boss is Malbatross, and again, you really need that rain protection for this one. I'm gonna do a raincoat plus a thulecite crown, but you could also do like an umbrella and a couple of log suits. I didn't bring a ranged weapon for phase 2, but with a driftwood ore, I can sail back in range before getting pushed back again, so I'm just trying to get through phase 2 as quickly as possible. Honestly though, most of the fight I was just tanking Malbatross. If you don't really want a lot of feathers, then it's one of those fights that you just want to get over with. Day 87, Bearger finally spawned. I'm going to use him to farm a little bit of wood so that I have boards for Crab King, and then I just took him down. If you haven't scanned a Slurper yet, you can scan Bearger for a super gastro gain circuit, and I've been told that a sleeping Bearger makes for a pretty decent biodata farm. Day 90, I am attempting Crab King. Keyword, attempt. The first one was a total fail. The issue is, and I didn't know this, Crab King's healing works on a timer. It's not based on how many attacks he's done, so if you leave him frozen for too long, then he skips an attack in the cycle and he just goes straight to healing. And I totally left him frozen for too long. I got distracted by Wavy at night, but I really didn't need to worry about the anchor getting messed with. So because of this, Crab King ended up healing a lot more than I would have allowed for, and I basically ran out of boards. So I'm gonna regroup, grab like 25 more boards, deconstruct my weather panes, craft them again, and I'm gonna try it one more time. The second attempt was super clean. I didn't have a star staff or a light circuit on, and I didn't really need speed for the fight, so I just used the thermal circuit plus an illumination circuit. I did leave a lantern in front of the boat at night just so that I could target Crab King with the weather pane while smacking the claws. The illumination circuit aura is not quite big enough. The trickiest part in this fight is casting the weather panes during the healing phase while fighting the claws, which screwed up my Wormwood boss run when there was a bug that prevented target switching with the mouse button. At one point in the fight, a claw spawned in back of the boat and broke my anchor. I had time to freeze Crab King and patch up the hole, but next time I gotta remind myself to place the anchor in the middle of the boat. All in all, it wasn't that expensive. Relatively. I used about 14 boards, 6 ice staves, and 3 weather panes. Day 102, it's time for the Terror Twins, and I like to start this fight when I fire up the Moonstorms because it gives me a whole day of full moon. I'm gonna go for Spasmatism first because it charges a lot. It's much easier to lure away in general. It's actually easier in the second phase when it does multiple charges to get it away from the eyeballs that it spawns. And then when you go back to the other twin who spams eyeballs all over the place, it's already in the second phase, so it's going to be charging more often. I gotta make sure to complete this fight on consecutive nights. If you skip a night, then the terrarium loses its charge and you gotta wait for it to cool down. The shield is a very good weapon against regular mobs. It's kind of like the eye mask that it can be easily refueled with any extra meat. It basically replaces a handbat for everyday use, and it frees up your head slot, which would normally need armor. For example, in spring, you can do an umbrella, a backpack, and fight with the shield. Day 105, I'm jumping into the Moonstorms. Now this is going to be interesting because I need to wear a raincoat for rain protection, and I need to wear desert goggles for the Moonstorms. So I'm actually doing this without any armor, which might be okay. With the insulation that you get with the raincoat, you don't have to worry about getting hurt by moon gleams, so the only possible damage is from moonbirds. They only hit for spider damage, so they're not super dangerous, and you can eat Glommergoop to heal and lower lunacy, so as long as you're not getting eaten alive by birds, you should be fine. I'm gonna keep the thermal circuit plugged in for a couple days of spring, and then I'm gonna swap it out. During the Moonstorms, you don't need any light, so you can get a little more creative with circuit combos during this time, which is why I gave my chat the option to choose one circuit for me to wear during Celestial Champion fight. And of course they're gonna choose the Chorus Box circuit. So WX got to fight the King of the Lunar Island to a warbly ragtime soundtrack. It's raining when I start the fight, so in phase 1 I'm going to use the Bone Helm plus Raincoat. I'm pretty confident in my dodging during this phase, and the Bone Helm has a lot of durability. Still raining during phase 2, but I need a little more protection for this phase, so I'm going to switch to a Thulecite crown, keeping the raincoat on. Normally I like to swap a Magiluminescence for the charge, but this time I'm going to wait until the charge, and then I'm going to equip my walking cane, just to make sure that the boss is not matching my speed. I'm getting a bunch of speed from WX anyway, so the mag is really not necessary here. For phase 3, it stopped raining blessedly, so I'm going to switch to a bone helm plus a Thulecite suit. If the rain hadn't stopped, I would have needed to keep the raincoat on, meaning I probably would have kept the Thulecite crown and just constantly managed my sanity with Glommergoop. The Thulecite suit makes the bone helm super durable. The bone helm has 60% damage reduction, so with the Thulecite suit, it only loses 40% of incoming damage. And as soon as you finish the fight, try to get the crown as soon as possible so that you have light for the long new moon. Day 115, the final boss of the run is Toadstool. I'm going to start off with a Morning Star for a wet toad, and then when that breaks, I'm going to switch to Dark Swords. For circuits, I'm going to go with the tried and true Optoelectronic and Speed. And then for gear, I'm going to wear a Thulecite crown plus a raincoat. If it stops raining, I might switch to a Magiluminescence. I have one pan flute that I'm going to use to disable Toadstool while I'm chopping trees, and then when that runs out, I'm going to switch to Ice Staves. I also brought 8 glass axes, which is totally overkill, but listen, they're cheap, and you really don't want to run out of chopping power during this fight. That's the thing that's going to end the fight. Every time Toad casts a Spore Cloud on me, I'm trying to lead him away from the hole, just to make sure that I'll get a little bit of extra time to hit him as he's walking back to the hole. And don't worry about the fridge with the Spore Cloud, it's totally safe as long as I don't open it up. On day 117, Toadstool fell. Now all that's left in the run is to take a selfie with the boss statues, and then to send WX off in style. Yeah, after 100 days of WX-78, I am certain that they are one of the strongest characters in the game. The ability to swap out circuits as needed, it makes them adaptable to practically any situation, and I love the variety of strategies that these circuits unlock. I'm not sure if WX is a better speedrunner than Wolfgang, because even with the speed, you still have default damage, so you're gonna spend more time preparing for bosses. Still, 117 days is my personal best for a boss run, and that included a completely botched Crab King fight. On a longer run, I'd love to experiment more with the electrification circuit. Versus a wet mob, it seems like it'd be useful, especially for boss fights with minions such as BeeQueen, or tanking situations like Fuelweaver. I'd say the raincoat is one of the most important items for WX because it frees up your head slot for armor during rain. You pretty much have to have total rain protection all the time. Otherwise, you start losing charge and will probably die. Anyways, that's it for the run. Let me know if you have any questions about the strategies, and tell me what circuit combos you've been using for different seasons and different bosses. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Good night, sweet prince. Well, that didn't take too long.